You're listening to a very special episode of the Kindness Matters podcast, our top 3 most listened to episodes. This is the Kindness Matters podcast, a space for stories that inspire, challenge, and bring us a little closer together. If you've been looking for a reminder of the good in people, you're in the right place, because kindness matters, and so do you. It's kindness we are. Well, hello there and welcome. You are listening to the Kindness Matters podcast, and I am your host, Mike Rathbun. What is this podcast all about? It's about kindness. It's a pushback against everything negative that we see in the news and on social media today, and it's a way to highlight people, organizations that are simply striving to make their little corner of the world a little better place. If you want to join in on the conversation, feel free. Go ahead and follow us on all of your social media feeds. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're even on LinkedIn under Mike Rathbun. Check us out. And in the meantime, so sit back, relax, enjoy, and we'll get into the Kindness Matters podcast. Hey, hello, and welcome everybody to the show. Thank you so much for the gift of 30 minutes of your time to tune in and listen to this episode. I am so happy that you're here. As I usually say, if there's something in this podcast that inspires you or motivates you, that's fantastic, and feel free to share it with your friends and family. I was just okay. So hey, I'm sure most of you or some of you have at some point in your life just gotten together with old friends and maybe done a craft night. Maybe you do it every month. Maybe you rotate. Who does it? Is that you? Do you ever do that? Did you then, through that craft night, make a positive difference in the life of hundreds, if not thousands, of people who more than deserved it? Because my guest today, Michelle Christensen from Golden Valley, Minnesota, has absolutely done that, and I am so excited to share her story with you. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Hello, Mike. Thank you for having me.
I feel like, because you've done a lot of these type of things before, haven't you?
Correct. Yes.
And I can just be like one of the other people besides CNN that interviewed you for a podcast. That is so cool. I listened to it. I don't know if I told you, but I did listen to it, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
But let's talk beginnings, because this all started when you and some of your friends, your kids were growing up and moving on with their lives, and they, as kids do, they tend to get their own lives, and you didn't want to lose that connection. So what happened then?
Correct. So what happened was I gathered with 3 other girlfriends, moms that I didn't want to lose connections with. And one thing that we all shared in common was just trying to do crafty things. And not that we were necessarily adept at it, but we were going to give it our best shot. And in the meantime, just connect and friendship more than anything else. So we decided to gather once a month, and we would each take turns hosting at our homes and coming up with the craft that we would be attempting to do. So we each took turns. The first time I had a craft to do, I work in construction, and the very first thing that we did was little free libraries. I was able to talk to some of our vendors, and they donated the wood. And there's carpenters at my company, so they made them. And I went to Sherwin-Williams, and they donated some paint. And so our very first thing, it took us multiple weeks. Or multiple meetings. It took us like 3 different meetings, but we had them crafted, we painted them, and we had 4 little free libraries to just either put in our own yards or to put out.
Sure.
So things go along, another 3 months go along, my friends take their turns. And the next time it comes to be my turn, um, we were talking about the little free libraries and what we were going to do. But in the meantime, it was the fall, the autumn time of year. And I had gone through some of my winter items and was just kind of arranging, taking stock, wanting to get things on sale if possible, and realized that I had a whole bunch of extra gloves. Kind of laughed to myself, and asked my friends, both the ones, all of them that were with me crafting, but also in my Facebook, that if anybody had some extra items, that I decided that I wanted to take any extra down to local shelters because I volunteer as an individual at shelters. And I knew that even though I had that many, others did not. And I wanted to share what I had. So I reached out into my personal community, and then I got a very huge response, a huge, wonderful response from my personal community. And I thought, this seems to be something that everybody can contribute to. Everyone was very excited, very kind, went through their kids' items, went through their personal items. My mother-in-law has some. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to open this up a little bit. So I went into my professional community. I've been in construction for 25 years now. Back then, it was almost going on 20 years. So I felt comfortable to send an email to my professional contacts and just said, hey, I'm collecting winter items for the unsheltered to bring them down to shelters. If you wouldn't mind just putting a collection box in your lunchroom, or, just a little something, that would be wonderful. And I would really appreciate it. And the response from that community was tremendous as well. I received feedback both by email, phone calls, whatnot. And beyond having the collection boxes being put out, I had people sending checks to me as well, to Michelle Christensen.
Oh, wow.
And those people sent little notes with them saying, fill the gaps, fill whatever it is that you don't have that you want to put into that population beyond your hats, gloves, and scarves. So that was very lovely. And this whole time, the response was tremendous. Didn't realize it. And so I was just managing it as I was going along. So I started collecting late September. We started going through, and I realized by probably mid-October, about a month in, that I had way too much for the shelters because they typically don't have a lot of extra room. They don't have a lot of extra
Sure.
closet space. And people were being so generous that I needed to do something other than just go to the shelters. There needed to be kind of a plan B. So I thought to myself, where else can I put these? And I thought, at this point, why not just go to where the unsheltered really truly live? And not all unsheltered or in need people use social services. And so I live in the Minneapolis Twin City area, and oftentimes you'll be driving and you'll see that person on the corner, or you'll see the person under the bridge, and you know that they're just simply out looking for cover. They're looking for something warm. So what I did was I went into the parks, kind of scoped out the situation, looked around. By the time, we're a month and a half in, I looked at one park in Minneapolis and one park in St. Paul and thought, this is going to be where we put our items. And so then the next step to me was, we have to identify that these are the items that are purposely, intentionally put out for that population. So I came up with a tag. It's about, I would say it's maybe 5 inches long by maybe 3 inches wide, colorful, one hole punched, and it says, take me, I'm not lost, I'm yours. And so my intention was to take those tags and to put the tags onto each item that we were going to place out in the park, so the community that needed those items would know that those were for them. And then the community
Sure.
that didn't need those items knew to just leave them right where they were. If they weren't going to take them, they were meant to be there. And then in the process, as I'm going through and I'm kind of coming up with a bit of a plan, I called the city of Minneapolis. I called the city of St. Paul, asked them what their rules and regulations were to make sure that our hard work wouldn't be taken in an adverse way because it was simply meant in kindness. And so I didn't want any kind of darkness to come upon the shine. And they said, as long as you pull permits through the city of Minneapolis, we'll know that you're there. We'll tell the park workers not to pick anything up. And thank you very much. Thank you for seeing our community. The need is there. And so that very first year, we had about 100 bags of donations. And in the process of collecting all of those donations, I had put a message out and said thank you to everybody. And I had a lot of personal people say, I'd like to help you put that out in the parks. I'd like to help you bring it to the shelters. I'd like to help you put it out in the parks. And I realized very quickly that I had over 40 people that wanted to help me. And so I went back to my professional population that had granted me and given me their funds. And I said to them in an email, thank you so much for your generosity. I did not foresee this, but there's so many people that want to share in this act of kindness that I feel like I need to rent a coach bus. And I need to use your money to pay for that bus. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be very transparent about what I was doing with their money because it was just coming to Michelle Christensen. So I went ahead, I got an estimate from Loren's bus, and I attached it to the email. And I said, this is how much I'll be spending on the bus. Thank you for understanding and your grace in me making this decision. And within an hour, I received back from the bus company a paid in full receipt from an anonymous donor. So someone
Whoa.
within that community, besides granting us funds to just fill the gaps, someone in that group also paid for our bus, which was not inexpensive. It was around,
No, I can
we,
imagine.
we did this in 2017, and I believe the first bill was very close to $750. So it wasn't a small
No.
gift at all. So we went forward. We put the tags. I had volunteers come to my house every Wednesday in December. We started putting the tags on the items. We attached them with a very large safety pin. So those can be utilized by those that are out unsheltered as well. Safety pins are a really big thing. They can hold pieces of clothing together or layers together. So every piece of what we were doing was going to be utilized. So we got our 100 bags. I had my 56 volunteers. The bus sat 56 people. We got a coach bus. We took the 100 bags of donations. We stuffed it into the belly of the bus. And I had maps of Loring Park and Kellogg Park. And those were the first two parks that we did. And so when I came up with an itinerary for the bus company, it was Loring Park first. We were going to take 50 bags with the people that were on the bus. We were going to go out into the parks and put all of those tagged items out. And then we were going to travel to the St. Paul Park, Kellogg Park, and do the same thing in that park. So that's exactly what we did. We gather, even now, we gather the first Sunday of every January, and we go out with whatever donations that we have. We're now up to 2 coach buses, so I have about 112 volunteers per, we call it scarf bombing because it's an explosion of kindness. When I
Love
came up
that.
with the name, there wasn't noticeable strife in the world it wasn't necessarily something that I intentionally named it that, just because it felt like it was just such a huge gift that everywhere you look, every tree limb, every bench, we even put items on the ground. We'll put like trail mix and wool socks and first aid kits. We'll put those in Ziplocs on the ground, even if we have to, because we run out of places to put our donations because there's just so many, which is beautiful.
That's a nice problem to have.
It's amazing and wonderful, and it's all due to all of those donations and all of the whole event. It's all volunteer based, whether it's you're just donating or you come to tag or you get on the bus. Some people do all three, some people only do one, and every single intentional act counts and gets us to where we need to go to complete the event in the manner that it is. And it's wonderful and it's beautiful and it's grown It's grown now for 8 years. This is our 8th year. We just did our scarf bombing on January 5th. So that is the beginning of our 8th year. Scarf bombing is the first event that One Good Deed started from, which is the name of our volunteer group in Golden Valley. And we've been around now for going on 8 years. And scarf bombing is one of our events.
Yeah, because you do. I mean, that in and of itself is amazing, and you probably could stop right there if you wanted to. But you do so much more. Um, Now, before we go on to that, though, you
Sure.
told a story when we were chatting about, was it the bus driver?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
first time?
Yes. So the very first time that the bus came to my home, and the very first year that we went out, I had people gather in my home. We gathered into teams, and we loaded the donations onto the bus. And before the bus took off from my house, everybody that had volunteered, they all knew me, but they didn't know each other. And so when I got into the bus, I asked for the microphone from the bus driver, calmed all the giddiness and all the chit-chatting, and kind of explained to everybody in the bus exactly what we were doing. So everybody was on the same page before we took off for the park. And after I explained everything to everybody, I turned back around and I was sitting at the front of the bus because, of course, you have a coach bus on a residential street. All of the volunteers had parked up and down the street, and it was winter. So there's snowbanks all over the place. And so I was very cognizant of trying to help the bus driver navigate tight corners getting on and off residential streets. So I was sitting right in the front seat.
Sure.
And as I sat down and people started calming down in the back a little bit, the bus driver turned to me and she said, "This is really, really neat what you're doing." She did not know what her journey was for. She just knew where we were going. And she said, I didn't know that there was such a thing. And I said, we just kind of came up with it. And she said, and we started taking off. And she said, "I would really like to help." And I said, "Well, we wouldn't be getting anywhere without you driving us. And I'm very, very appreciative for that. Thank you for navigating and getting us safely to where we need to go." And she said, "No, really, I want to do it. I want to help." And I said, "Okay." And when we had gathered in my home, I gave everybody snacks. We used the restrooms. We filled our coffee cups because none of that is out there when we go out into the parks. And so I had extra muffins, extra pastries, and we brought everything onto the bus. I told people, please fill up, but anything that we don't eat or use here, we're going to bring on the bus and we're going to give to the people in the park as well as the winter items. So we had a lot of pastries and such on the bus. And so when the bus driver said she wanted to help, we were going towards Loring Park, and there's an exit on 94 as you're going towards Loring Park, and it's called Dunwoody Boulevard. And it brings you down. That's the exit you take to get to Loring Park. And as you're navigating your way to Loring Park and coming off the freeway, there's concrete medians to your left to make it two-way traffic. And there's always unsheltered people right in those concrete medians, right at the stoplights. And so I told her as we were journeying on the freeway, there's going to be people on those concrete medians. And she said, okay. And I said, we can give them some of these pastries. And everything was up by us in the front of the bus.
Nice.
And she said, okay. And I said, so when you're coming off the exit ramp, instead of going in the right lane like we wanted to get to the park, I said, if you go in the left-hand lane, the concrete median will be on your left and the person will be standing right there. And you can open your window as we stop at the stoplight. So that's exactly what we did. She pulled the bus into the left-hand lane and the light turned red and the person was there. And she said, what do I do? And I said, open your window. So she opened the window and the person looked at her and she said, now what? And I said, well, ask them if they'd like a muffin. So she did. And the person said, yes, I would love a muffin. And she said, now what? And I said, give them a muffin. So
Yeah.
We had those really big muffins. I don't know if you're from around here, but we had those really big Perkins muffins where they can only fit 4 in a pie box.
They are so big.
Monster muffins. Right. And I made sure that I got double chocolate chip, and I wanted to give everybody a whole bunch of energy and sweetness before they went out. So she took a really big double chocolate chip muffin, and she held it out the window and she said, "Would you like this muffin?" And he said yes. And he started coming over to the bus, and she leaned out and she gave him the muffin, and he said, "Thank you." And she said, "Now what?" And I said, "Give him the box, ask him if he wants more." And he said, "Yes." And she said, "Now what do I do?" And I said, "Give him the box, give him the whole box of muffins," because oftentimes you'll see one unsheltered person, but they're within a community,
Sure.
or they're
Yeah.
taking turns, or it's more convenient for them where they are, but they have their own community as well, and they take care of each other. So you may see one, but there's always going to be 4 or 5 more. And there happens to be a bridge probably within a block and a half of that location. And I know that there's family that live up in the eaves underneath the bridges. So I knew that the food was going to go immediately underneath that bridge. So she got to help. She was just tearful and so grateful and had an amazing experience. So we get into the right-hand lane. We go to Loring Park. She pulls in. She opens the bus doors. I had already kind of explained everything to the volunteers. She hops out of the bus, opens up the bellies of the bus, and we take out 50 bags. We have 4 teams on a bus. So everybody, if there's 56 people, they're just divided into 4 teams. And I have a leader per team. So if you're out in the park, you know who your leader is. If you have any questions, if you want to go back to the bus. But then that way too, we don't leave the park without everybody being accounted for. That team leader knows that they're 12 people, they're 14 people. Those people know to check in with that team leader. And I wanted to make sure that no one left the park. I told them, don't go to Dunn Brothers for coffee. Don't try to find a bathroom. You need to stay here. We have 45 minutes. So we did our scarf bombing in Loring Park. And then the volunteers, I gave them a time frame of please come back to the bus by 12:30. If you're done before, come and sit on the bus and wait. 12:30, we counted heads, and we were on our way to the next park, which was Kellogg Park, and we had to take another very skinny street. And we started turning the corner, and the light in front of us that we needed to turn to get onto the freeway to turned red. And the Walker Art Center is right in front of us, very tight turn. Again, I'm sitting in the front of the bus, and I can hear this chitter chatter in the back of the bus. And by now, people were just beyond themselves about what they did. They had moments of real clarity and kindness, and they just loved what they did. And so the din on the bus was just tremendous. And so I'm trying to help her navigate the skinny street. And I hear in the back of the bus, I hear this woman say, "Joe, Joe." And she's talking a little bit louder above, and I can hear her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I turn around and there's nothing really. And then I hear her say it again. She's like, "Joe, my blanket, it's moving." And so I turn around and I look at her, and she's about halfway back on the bus. And I look at her, and she's just loud enough where the other people on the bus are kind of looking at her too to see what is she talking about. So her husband looks out the window. He happened to be in the window seat. And he looked out the window, and his wife had put out a neon pink blanket. And it was visible from where she was, even though we were away from the park. She could see
Oh
it, and
my
the blanket
gosh.
was moving. And he said, "Somebody has your blanket." And so somebody, in the time it took us to load the bus and go around the corner, we did not see many unsheltered people out looking. They knew that we were coming. I had given the shelters in the area flyers about 2 weeks beforehand and said, please share this with your community. We're going to come on this date at this time. And please let them know that if there's anything out there with this tag, they can have it. Food, tents, sleeping bags, items, it doesn't matter. It's for them. It's purposed. And so they knew that we were going to be out in the parks, and they were waiting. They were waiting for us to leave, and that's exactly what happened. We got on the bus, we left, and we hadn't even turned the corner to get on the freeway, and this woman saw her pink blanket moving because somebody was underneath the blanket and had taken it. So when her husband said, somebody took your blanket, all of a sudden I felt a shift on the bus because everybody went over to that side of the bus to see if their items, yes, they kind of lean. But they wanted to see if their items were being taken and used. And it was amazing and beautiful and heartwarming. It was amazing. And so by the time we turned onto the freeway, I swear people were singing Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round and Old MacDonald, and they were just having a blast in the back. They were getting to know each other. I heard things like, you only live 4 blocks from us. Our sons played hockey together. Oh, I know her. I work with her. So
So it's a real community.
yeah, beyond giving into a community, they were able to also receive from the community of kindness that they were sitting in. And it was very lovely to watch all of the connections happen. Even though I was at the front of the bus, I didn't see it all, but I saw enough of it and I could feel it on the bus. It was amazing. So we ended up going to Kellogg Park and we did the exact same thing. By the time we got out, they were old hands. They knew what they needed to do. But I will share one other little story and I'll be quick. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but we got to Kellogg Park and there's nowhere to park a bus on Kellogg Boulevard. It's just a 2-way both ways.
Yeah,
So
if you're not familiar with St. Paul,
right.
Those streets over there are nuts.
Well, and there's nowhere to park unless you go into a ramp. There's just nowhere to park. There's no metered parking. There's no nothing. And so Kellogg Park sits, the Mississippi River sits on the right-hand side, and then Kellogg Boulevard sits on the left. And then the park sits in between the river and the road. So we were doing kind of a rectangular strip park. And the bus driver didn't know where to park. And I said, let's do this. Just put the bus here, meaning like just right behind a stoplight. And I said, just flip on your hazards and we'll be quick. And she said, I want to help again. And I said, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll stay on the bus. You can go out and you can scarf bomb, but don't go too far. Because if a police officer comes, I need you to come back on this bus and I need you to drive this bus.
I do not have a license that says I can drive this bus.
And she was so eager to help that I wanted to find a way to let her help. So that's exactly what we did. She threw on the blinkers. So I'm sitting on the bus and I'm watching and I can kind of see all of the volunteers at this point. I can make sure that no one's really leaving the park. And then all of a sudden I look up and we're sitting behind, it's a 2-lane, Kellogg Boulevard is a 2-lane. And so we're in the rightmost lane with the hazards on behind a stoplight. People are going around us. It's not a problem at all. But I look and there's a car that is on the other side of the intersection of the stoplight in front of us in the right-hand lane with their hazards on. And I'm like, oh no, people are starting to park on the road like this is a parking spot. And then another car came and then another car came.
Look what you started.
So there was 3 cars all with their hazards on. And I'm looking out the front of the window and I'm like, this is going to become a problem. So I'm just getting ready to get the bus driver. And the next thing I know, I see people get out of all 3 of the cars. They open up their trunks and they pull out their own blankets, their own jackets, their own emergency kits from the backs of their cars. They had followed us from Loring Park.
Oh my gosh.
And they wanted, and I don't know who they are. I just watched them do it. And then they got back in their cars and they left, but they went up to the volunteers and every volunteer had like a Ziploc full of extra tags, extra pins, hand warmers, just in case they met a person in the park, somebody might need something. And so they went up to the volunteers took a new tag with a pin and they gave their items to my volunteers to put out into the park because
oh my gosh, you talk about the ripple of kindness.
It was amazing. It was and I saw it only because I was sitting on the bus. Had I not been sitting on the bus waiting, I would have missed the whole transaction. And so it was an amazing, for me personally, it was the cherry on top and the reason why. It was the sprinkles, and it was a lot of work to organize all of that together. And that to me was that and the pink blanket. Those two moments were very instrumental. And then the last, we get back on the bus, we come back to my home. Everybody's getting off the bus. I'm thanking everybody in person because they're all my friends and they were all helping me, Michelle. And so I wanted to thank everybody. So I thanked everybody in person as they were getting off. And the first, I don't know, like 5 or 6 people that got off the bus, they're like, "Hey, Michelle, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next?" And I said, "Geez, I think I might take a deep breath because that was a lot. That was 3 months of work." I kind of joked about it, said thank you to everybody. And I said thank you to the bus driver. And then I turned around, and I'm a bit petite. I'm 5'2". So I stood on the top of the bus steps and I looked, and my front yard was filled with people. None of the volunteers had left.
Oh,
And so I said, "No, really, thank you so much, you guys. Feel free to use my restroom. Thank you so much." The Vikings were playing. People had things to do, and I didn't want them to feel like they had to stay. And somebody in the back of that crowd said, "What are you going to do next?" And I looked at everybody and realized that I hadn't seen it, but a general shift in all of those people collectively had happened probably in the bus. I would guess on the way back home,
yeah.
like I heard people say, "I don't want this to end. I want to keep doing this. Do we have any more? Can we go to another park?" And that was lovely. But I think once everything was kind of done and said and it soaked into people's heart space, they wanted to do more. And so it became a verbal question once they needed to end the event. And I said at that point, "If I do more, will you help me?" And they all said yes. And so One Good Deed, our group of volunteers that has now been around for 8 years, that is how One Good Deed started, was in my front yard after our first year of scarf bombing, because I wanted to make crafts with moms that I didn't want to lose connection with. It's
Wow.
amazing. It's amazing. And then
So,
and
go
it's
ahead.
it's only grown. It's only grown from there. The events that we do One Good Deed a month. That's the name of our group, is One Good Deed. And we intentionally do one good deed in kindness a month. So scarf bombing is our January good deed. In February, we're making cards for seniors. And I think we're doing, we're gathering on February 8th, and I believe I have 65 volunteers signed up already, which is amazing. But what we'll do is we cover four senior campuses. So we have 200 cards that we're kind of obligated to make, so we can give them to 4 campuses. And then any extra I will give to Meals on Wheels. And so
Oh,
last
nice. And
year,
they can put them out with their meals.
yep, they tuck them
Perfect.
in. They tuck them into the meals, and the cards are meant for a piece of kindness for people that don't necessarily either get visitors or they don't have the ability to connect. They're either mobility
Probably
challenged.
homebound or,
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Yep.
So last year we made 650 cards. So Meals on Wheels received 450 cards to put in, plus we covered the 4 campuses. And it's amazing. So this year with 65 volunteers to this point, we'll probably end up with maybe 80 people. But one of the other things that I really intentionally do with One Good Deed is I make sure that whatever good deed we're doing, all of the materials, the venue, all of the details of the event are taken care of. And all I ask for as the organizer of One Good Deed, all I ask for is your kindness and your time. You don't have to bring materials. You don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is come to the venue for the time that we're there, or if it's a 3-hour event and you can only give an hour, that's okay too. But like for our
Sure.
card making activity, I've got the paper, the stamps, the stickers, the bling, all of that will be sitting there, and a plethora of sneaky snacks and beverages because I'm a hostess.
Oh,
So, but everything literally that you need to just rest in kindness, it's all there. You just need to bring your actual kindness and helping hands and heart to the event.
Excellent.
And that's every event that we do.
Now, so okay, that January and February.
Yeah.
What else do you do during the year? I know you. And how long did it take you to decide I want to do something every month?
Um, I would say the first year was a lot of learning, how much I could give because I do have a full time job as well. So, One Good Deed is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. You know, both state and federal. We're tax exempt, and we've grown into that. But it takes a lot of time to organize, and the good deeds that we have 12 a year, but I have several partners, nonprofit partners that One Good Deed supports on the backside that it's not an event. You wouldn't see it as something that you could participate in, but we support other nonprofits that maybe don't have their status so they can receive the benefit of kindness.
I saw on your website that you partnered with the Animal Humane Society.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing.
Like in March, like some of our events, it did take a minute, I would say the first year, but then I just I wanted to do a little bit of everything for everyone. So there'd be an appeal for everybody. March is recognized as International Women's History Month. And so we host it's a International Women's Day, kind of like a showcase. I invite 36 women run, women inspired, women centric, whether it's the League of Women Voters or a needle workers group or Herself Health, who does women only health items concerns. I rent a space, a huge gymnasium. I invite 36 different, there's no overlapping, but 36 kind of different organizations or businesses to come there and just be present, answer questions. If somebody wants to sign up for a class, they want to find out more about something, but it's free to the vendor and it's free to the public. One Good
That's
Deed pays for the
fantastic.
space, and it's just about here are some things that are out there for you. And we do it in the vein to celebrate women just because that's March's event. And of course, we get men and kids, and it's lovely. Last year, I think we had about 400 people come and attend, just kind of walk
Whoa.
through. So the lovely part is that if you're coming as a guest, there's no charge at all, but you can walk into this gymnasium and you can take all the time that you want, and you can bounce off every table or three. Whatever speaks to you, you can spend that amount of time there with them and get one-on-one, face-to-face answers. How does this look? Do you have another chapter in my area? Whatever the question may be, that's what those people at the table are there for. They want to share what they do. And it's
Sure.
specific, but it does apply if you're a loving partner to say a woman, and she's asking questions, you can stand right there as her male counterpart or female counterpart or whoever you are as her partner. You can stand there and hear the same things she's hearing and say, hey, you know what? I've got a question. Could that be something I could participate in too or whatnot? So that's March. April, we do an Earth Day community cleanup. I get a 20-yard dumpster donated and we fill it up to the top. I had last year, I think we had 45 volunteers. We break up into teams and we have garbage bags and we just fill the dumpster. And we go out for 4 hours. I have Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops, church groups, clubs, organizations. That's April. May is Flags for Fort Snelling and the Animal Humane Society Walk for Animals. We're walk ambassadors for them. So we kind of fill their gaps. We're just the people that walk around to make sure that if any participant has a question, where's the restroom? Where's the start line? That's
Sure.
what we do. And then
Okay.
Flags for Fort Snelling, we put flags at Fort Snelling. We sign up for shifts. So if that's something that speaks to you, that's a very hard organization. Those gaps fill really fast, but I get dedicated slots all weekend, and people can sign up for that. We have a charity garage sale in June. Last year we made $8,000 for charity. The year before was $9,000. And we have two nonprofits. All the money that we make, we donate into the two nonprofits. So everybody that wants to donate items, like let's say the epilepsy truck is coming around, or the veterans truck is coming around, you put your stuff down at the curb and they pick it up. We at One Good Deed will take that we start in mid-May, and we start taking donations in. We put everything out. I have 5 yards, 5 full front yards full of items. And what happens is we put everything out and nothing is priced. It's free will pricing, and everything that we make is considered an in-kind donation. So one person can come up and say, this book is 25 cents to me. And the next person can say, this book is $100 to me. And to us, it doesn't matter, because all of the money goes to our supported nonprofits. But it's a wonderful, beautiful way to donate and repurpose your items to someone else. And then we do have people, I go to shelters in our area where the garage sale is, and I put posters up and I say, if you're in need or you're unsheltered, come. And so we'll get that population as well, where they come and they'll come up, and I see it all the time. They'll have a couple bags worth of stuff, and they'll be like, they'll open up their wallet, kind of paw through, and they'll be like, is $7 enough? And I'll say, 5 is enough. 5 is enough. And you know what?
Yeah.
You've got 3 ones. I need ones. I'll take those 3 ones. You keep the 5. Because it's about dignity, at a certain point. But then there's other people that they come here because they know that that's what we're doing, and they may not want to do a formal donation into a nonprofit, but they know who we support, and so they'll come in and they'll support that nonprofit that way. That's June. July, we kept the little free libraries. We do 30 little free libraries every year. They're all made. I have the paint, the brushes, everything is donated. And we did our 200th Little Free Library last year. So now we'll be up to 230 this year.
That's crazy.
And we do kindness. We paint kindness rocks, the little ones that just aren't old enough to paint yet, because we get families for that activity. So I'll have a separate little area where they can make friendship bracelets, and they can paint rocks, and they can do whatever. And then we have the kids and the families that are a little bit older and can hold a paintbrush and kind of do a good job of it. They paint their libraries, and then when they're done painting their libraries, they take them home into their communities, their front yards, wherever they want, and they plant their little free library for free.
I was thinking of doing that this year because I have a great space for it at my house, but I've never built one. And
yep. Well, you should come and paint one. If you want to paint one, I can get you one. That's not a problem. And my carpenters that do them now, it's a retired men's group that meets every week. And they actually make my little free libraries. And then I donate to them, and they meet every week to be in service. So they've done many things for One Good Deed. It's amazing. And they make beds for foster children. So they turn around and take the money that I donate to them for making the libraries, and the beds come in kits already, but they buy the bedding. They buy the mattress and the sheets and everything else. So when they're going to a foster home to install a bed, they've got the pieces for the bed, but then they've also got the bedding. And they have pictures, but they fix bikes, and they do memorial crosses for the fire department. I mean, they just want to be in service. So they make my little free libraries every year, and they love it. They love being purposed. They know what they're doing. And it's a ripple. It goes all the way. If I didn't have them, I couldn't do little free libraries. The families couldn't plant those in their communities.
Yeah.
August, we do backpacks for unsheltered youth. September, we do fleece tie blankets we did 200 this September. And we tuck teddy bears in the blankets. We did 50. We gave to the Ronald McDonald House, 50 to Foster Minnesota, 50 to Hennepin Healthcare, and 50 to Hennepin County First Responders for the backs of their cars and ambulance. October, we do comfort care for cancer patients because Cancer Awareness Month is October. So we'll do mastectomy pillows, port covers, chemo caps. We do that. November, we do cards for seniors again, but we do Thanksgiving because that's a very popular thing. And volunteers like that activity. And there's a lot of people that love those cards.
Oh, sure.
And then December, we start kind of going full tilt, getting ready for scarf bombing. So I just kind
January.
of leave that. Yeah, I leave that open. So that's our schedule in a nutshell.
Wow, Michelle, this is so amazing, and all because you wanted to stay close to your friends as the kids moved off.
Right.
I mean, it just started so simple and so organically, and that is so amazing. I cannot thank you enough for your time today. It has been the absolute pleasure of a lifetime to talk with you and have you hear your story.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me and sharing our ripple of kindness. It really is out there. Our group started with 100 people or 56 people that first year, and now, we're up to over 1,700. And so
That's
oftentimes
crazy.
I just want to let people know that kindness really does still live and thrive. And sometimes it's a little hard to see, but if you find the right place, you'll find it.
And your organization is onegooddeed.org, and I will have the link for that in the show notes. So anybody who wants to know what's going on or wants to volunteer or wants to donate, that's a place to do it.
Wonderful.
Thank
you so much. You're welcome. Have a great weekend, my friend.
I want to thank you for taking this time to listen to this episode with my guest, Michelle Christensen. I hope you're able to take something positive from the time you spent with us. Maybe you'll be inspired. Maybe you'll be motivated. Maybe you'll be moved. If you experienced any of those positive feelings, please consider sharing this podcast with your friends and family. I'm always striving to offer you a better podcast, so give me some feedback. Let me know how you think I'm doing. Offer suggestions for shows. You can do that by emailing me or leaving me a message on my socials. It would mean the world. Also, feel free to follow us on our socials like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. This podcast is part of the Mayday Media Network. If you have an idea for a podcast and need some production assistance, or have a podcast and are looking for a supportive network to join, MaydayMediaNetwork.com, and check out the amazing shows on there, like Afrocentric, Spoiled by Movie, Generation Mixtape, In a Pickle Radio Show, Wake Up and Dream with D. Anthony Palin, Stacks of Packs, and The Time Pals. We will be back again next week with a new episode, and we would be honored if you would join us. You've been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.